everybody, and welcome into another episode of Fantasy Football Picks and Bets presented by PrizePicks. I am Lauren Carpenter, and you can find me at Stepmom Lauren. We have a great show lined up for you today. We are heading into Week 10, and this is a look at your waiver wire targets and streamers for your Week 10 matchups. It's been crazy so far. It's really hard to believe that we are already looking at Week 10 for the 2021 season, but here we are. And we are ready to go. But before we hop into those waivers and streamers, we have a few things that we do need to take care of first. And that is head over to prizepicks.com and sign up. Use the promo code MMN and you get your deposit of up to $100 matched. And when you sign up, you get to be involved in our 7-11 challenge. That's right, it is super easy to do. You just pick 5 over-unders from the Thursday and Sunday games. Change your bet amount to $7.11 because that is how PrizePicks will track it. And then boom, you're in. And it's super fun because we have prizes that go to first, second, and third. We also have prizes for people that come in right in the middle and also prizes for people who come in dead last. So it's not too late to get involved in our 7-11 challenge. Plus, PrizePicks is so much fun. It's not just football, it's any sport, all sports. I don't know it's all sports, but there's a ton of sports. And there's a lot of things that you can do with it. And it's fun. It's simple. Over, under. That's all you need to do. Lots of options. Get involved. Come join the fun. There's a link in the description of this video that will take you right there. And remember, use the promo code MMN to get your deposit of up to $100 matched. And let's take a look at that 7-11 leaderboard. We have a dark horse that is coming for you, Alan W., who has been in first place here single-handedly for the last few weeks. Alan W., you're not alone this week. Joseph W. is actually gunning for you, my friend. You guys are tied in first place with 33 correct. We have 2 tied in second place. That's Nicholas R. and Jason K. at 31. And we have Joe D., Adam H., Jude D., John H., all tied third place with 30. We also still have a host of people that are all the way down here at 0. Let me just scroll all the way down. I know it might take a minute. We have so many people that play. It takes me a while to scroll all the way down to the bottom, which is William H, 0, Nicholas T, Dale P, John B, Jasmine C, Francis K, and Alexa D. Y'all are at 0, but that's okay because we still have a prize for people who come in last. So, Alan W., Your throne there's a coup. There's a coup being staged. Oh, watch out, my friends. This is going to get super fun as we continue each week here on out. Good luck to Alan W. and Joseph W. as you head into Week 10 and you make those prize pick selections. But for the rest of us who aren't battling in first place, and just for anyone, because we need to talk about waivers here, we need to look at the injuries first. Luckily, we didn't have any huge season-ending injuries over the weekend that concern us for the fantasy football purposes. Aside from what we already heard about Henry Ruggs and all those things that have happened, I'm talking about strictly injuries that happened in Week 9. We had Trevor Lawrence actually had an ankle injury of some sort, stepped on or something, some such. Apparently, he's going to be fine. You should monitor his status anyway, just in case. Chase Edmonds suffered a high ankle sprain. He did leave the game very early, much to the chagrin of everyone who started him, like this girl right here. It's not looking good for Week 10, and he's likely to miss a few weeks. So keep an eye on his status. Fire up James Conner. I mean, he's going to feast even more. And congratulations to James Conner, who leads the league in touchdowns. Who knew? Because the Steelers tried to run him over like he was a bulldozer, and, he's not. He just needed a little help, and now he is number 1. Well done, James Conner. Russell Wilson is expected to return this week. He's a little bit early in the timeline for the surgery on his finger. He posted a video about it. Very weird. He posts odd videos. Sam Darnold is going to have an MRI on his shoulder. I'm not sure if that's why he looked absolutely terrible on Sunday. Who knows? Or maybe he's just Sam Darnold. No idea. But if you have to rely on Sam Darnold, I'm very sorry. But keep an eye on his status because that will change things for DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Should still be okay for Christian McCaffrey. So that is what it is. Just for whatever reason, keep your eye on Sam Darnold. It's news. He's getting an MRI. I don't know if that's going to help him play better football or not. Antonio Brown, he is still in a walking boot, according to head coach Bruce Arians. Not great news for Week 10. And, Zach Moss, he left the game early with a head injury, so concussion protocol is in line for him. So he is unlikely for Week 10. But again, make sure you keep your eye eyes on all of these injuries as we head into week 10. Make sure you tune in, especially to the Friday episode with Pat Mayo on fantasy football picks and bets, because he goes over the more detailed and inclusive list of injuries and updates from practices from all through the week. So he will get you going and make sure that you are on top of the game when it comes to injuries that you should be aware of. But let's dive in right into our waiver wire targets. And I cannot believe that it is 2021. And I'm actually saying this name as a viable target that you need to be going after on the waiver wire. It's Devonta Freeman, who's a Baltimore Raven, in case you missed it. He is only 20% rostered, and it looks like the Ravens are just refusing to use Tyson Williams. So this is now Freeman's backfield, and Le'Veon Bell will be there to sniper touchdowns. That just is what it is, and Lamar Jackson will continue to run as well. But Devonta Freeman had 13 carries for 79 yards. He also had 3 targets, 2 receptions, 4 yards, and one of those was a touchdown. So he's getting involved. He's getting the looks. He's getting the touches. So yeah, I guess this is where we're going right now, for now. I don't know, but Devonta Freeman, he's someone who's getting a lot of touches, and that is rare to find on the waiver wire this time of year. They're also playing Miami in Week 10, which is 9th worst against running backs. Then they face Chicago and Cleveland, which aren't great matchups. But if you need somebody for Week 10 and you can get your hands on Devonta Freeman, he should be a good look for you. And next we have Ramondre Stevenson, from the veteran to the rookie. So he did suffer a head injury on Sunday's game, so keep an eye on his status when it comes to what they're going to do with the concussion protocol or not. But he is only 6% rostered of the New England Patriots. He saw 10 carries for 62 yards, 2 targets, 2 receptions, and 44 yards. He is really carving out a role for himself in this offense, even with Damian Harris still there and playing well, who also suffered a head injury on Sunday. So I don't even know what's going on with the Patriots running backs. We will know more later in the week. They are playing Atlanta in Week 10, which is a great matchup for running backs. Then, kind of like we had with Devonta Freeman, they're playing Tennessee and Buffalo. Not great matchups, but Week 10 should be good for Ramondre Stevenson. And even though it's a tough matchup, the Patriots are battling every single game, so I don't necessarily know if it's a huge knock on the two backs, especially Ramondre Stevenson, when it comes to bad matchups. But again, keep an eye on his status, only 6% rostered for the Patriots. And then we're going to take a look at Ty Johnson. I've mentioned his name a few times, but he is still only 13% rostered. And Ty Johnson is the RB2, if you will, for the New York Jets. And I fully understand that this is Michael Carter's backfield, and I'm not arguing that at all. But Ty Johnson did have 4 carries for 21 yards. He saw 3 targets, 2 receptions, 40 yards, and had a touchdown on one of those targets. He is a safety valve that both Mike White and Josh Johnson use. Now, the wild card here is going to be with Zach Wilson if and when he returns, or when and if he returns. So we're not really quite sure what Zach Wilson is going to do back from injury. Maybe he's had time to kind of evaluate safer plays that he could do instead of YOLOing, like a Jameis Winston type every single play. But he is someone to keep an eye on, and I do like Ty Johnson. Their matchup is not great in Week 10. They're playing Buffalo, but then after that, they have Miami, Houston, and Philadelphia. All 3 of those teams rank in the bottom 10 versus running backs. So he is someone to keep an eye on. I would snack him just to hang on to him for those 3 weeks. Again, Ty Johnson, 13% rostered for the Jets. And again, the veteran presence here, I can't even believe it. Jordan Howard. Okay, so I guess he's a thing. Thank you, Nick Sirianni. He is 13%. This is Jordan Howard of the Eagles, because apparently they can't make up their mind on whether or not they want to play Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, all 3, or just rely on Jordan Howard. So it turns out that it's just going to be Jordan Howard, I guess, because Kenny Gainwell got a touchdown, Boston Scott got a few looks, but it was Jordan Howard. He had 17 carries, which were 5 more than he had last week after getting activated from the the practice squad, for 71 yards and a touchdown. He scored double-digit fantasy points since he's been playing football this season, which is only 2 weeks. So until Miles Sanders returns, it looks like Jordan Howard is going to be that guy, and then Gainwell and Boston Scott are just going to flip-flop. So the only constant so far that we've seen in 2 weeks has been Jordan Howard, and he, again, is only 13% rostered. Honorable mentions here. James Robinson is still considered day-to-day. He did miss with his heel injury. Carlos Hyde got the volume. Again, not flashy and beautiful, but it's Carlos Hyde. Keep an eye on his status as well, because I do believe that he sustained an injury as well. Also, Darrell Henderson had an ankle issue, I think, went out of the game, then came back in the game, but either way, Sony Michel is someone that you should have on your bench if you roster Dale Henderson, or even if you don't roster Dale Henderson. Sony Michel is literally one injury away from being the workhorse. I don't know what he can do with it. I don't think very much, but still, volume in fantasy football is king. So let's jump into some wide receivers that could be available for you for week 10. And I really want to try to avoid chasing points because we had a couple of wide receivers that really exploded, and it's deceiving in my opinion. And the first one I'm going to bring up is Olamide. That's it. I think it's Olamide, but I heard Marcus Grant call it Olamide, so I'm going with Olamide Zaccheaus from the Atlanta Falcons. I thought my necklace fell off. All right. Against the Saints. My computer is breaking. Against the Saints. Did really great. He got 2 touchdowns. But my friends, it's the target. So even though he had this flashy stat line, that doesn't necessarily matter because that is not dependable, that is not sticky, and touchdowns are very difficult to predict week to week. He only had 3 targets, but he did haul in all 3 of those targets for 58 yards and 2 touchdowns, like I mentioned. That kind of production is not going to be sustainable for me moving forward. But the other wide receiver for the Falcons is Russell Gage, who is 16% rostered, so widely available. He saw 8 targets for 7 reception and 64 yards. And they're playing Dallas. I like that. New England and Jacksonville. I mean, that's decent. But this is going to be very interesting with Calvin Ridley out due to addressing his mental health, which I 100% am behind. Good for you, Calvin Ridley. More people need to be just like you. Keep being brave. This is going to be weird because literally we're talking about Cordell Patterson, Russell Gage, and Kyle Pitts, and yet it's Zaccheaus who got 2 touchdowns. This is difficult, but I would lean towards where the targets are going. And out of those 2 wide receivers for the Falcons, it looks like it's Russell Gage. So out of the 2, I'm going to stick with Russell Gage. Speaking of another kind of a point chaser, dart throw, if you will, it's Marquez Callaway from the other side of the ball from that matchup with the Saints. Callaway is 34% rostered. Now, I am hesitant on this one. I do want to bring up that he is available in most leagues, and they're playing Tennessee, Philadelphia, and Buffalo. I don't love that. And he does rely on touchdowns. Again, I don't love that either. Plus, we're not really sure what's going on with the quarterback situation, whether or not they'll continue with Trevor Siemian or they'll look at Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill really likes to use his legs, but he does sometimes like to look downfield just a little bit. But either way, with Michael Thomas sidelined, there's only so much that can be made up for with an elite wide receiver in Michael Thomas, and Marcus Callaway looks like he's going to be the deep field threat. So if you want to stash him, totally get it. If you're desperate, I totally get that one too. But he is a little scary, but he's a boomer bust, and when he booms, he booms. Now, I'm going to bring up 2 wide receivers for the Jets. Now, I know I mentioned Ty Johnson already, and I'm kind of pushing the Jets here, which kind of feels gross to even say. But Keelan Cole, I don't know if this is going to continue to be a trend or if this is just a fluke. It's a phrase that I do like to use, but he is pretty much not rostered at all. And he saw 8 targets and he had 5 receptions for 66 yards. That's really nothing to sneeze at. I don't like their matchup this week, as I mentioned before, because that's against Buffalo. But Corey Davis is sidelined. And if Corey Davis keeps missing time, it's going to be one of those timeshares between Keelan Cole and Elijah Moore, who I will bring up in just a moment. And again, on the other hand, he's only one healthy player away from becoming fantasy irrelevant again, and I'm not sure what Zach Wilson is going to be able to do under center compared to Mike White or Josh Johnson, but there is a pretty good chance that Mike White might play this week, even though Zach Wilson is considered healthy enough to start practicing. So you may be able to get one more good week out of Keelan Cole. But Elijah Moore, the rookie who we were all so excited about, finally arrived. Yes, he had 2 touchdowns. In his matchup, he is only 27% rostered, and it is nice to see a rookie that you get really excited about do really well. And as I mentioned, they're still going to have a really rough matchup in Week 10 against the Bills, but I mean, let's just face it, the Bills got embarrassed by the Jaguars, so it's not like this is going to be impossible. And I think Elijah Moore can become that person that stretches the field, especially if we don't have Corey Davis. So Elijah Moore is one I'm very excited about, only 27% rostered. And two more here, Deontay Harris of the Saints. Now, I know I mentioned, I speak English. I know I mentioned a Saint already in Marquez Callaway. That's actually really hard to say a couple of times really fast. I'm not going to try it again. Don't worry. Deontay Harris. He is only 15% rostered, and Tre'Quan Smith is only 3% rostered. Again, this is going to be a very interesting situation between the wide receivers now that Michael Thomas is sidelined for the rest of the season. I think I might like Tre'Quan Smith just a little more, but I don't really know if I do. So for me, this is going to be a situation in daily fantasy of whichever one is going to be least expensive, but also whichever one is available and which one you believe in here, because there is going to have to there's a void that needs to be filled, is what I should say. So which wide receiver is going to be able to step up and do it between Deontay Harris and Tre'Quan Smith? It's likely to be Tre'Quan Smith because he's familiar with this offense. He knows what's going on. I mean, but so does Deontay Harris. It's just tough. So for me, out of those two, I think I might favor Tre'Quan Smith just because I know what he's capable of doing. But yeah, it's a stinky situation with the Saints because we really don't know what's going on with their quarterback position. But one last wide receiver I do want to bring up is Deshaun Jackson. Yes, I know that he was just released by the Rams, but he's also either already signed or expected to sign with the Raiders. And I did already mention the fact that Henry Ruggs is no longer with the Raiders, and he is their deep field threat. And that is exactly what Deshaun Jackson is, and they have a need to fill, and they have to fill it quickly. Jackson is only 5% rostered. They have a very tough matchup this week, but week 11 against Dallas is very good. And then they play Washington in week 12, which is another very good matchup. So Deshaun Jackson, interesting ad there. Probably won't cost you anything. 5% rostered of the Raiders now, formerly of the Rams. Now let's dive into the dumpster fire that, let's put on our hazmat suits, our fire suits, put the fire retardant on us as we leap into the flames of trash, which is the tight ends. Okay, and my first one here, don't hate me, all right, but is Jeff Swaim of the Titans becoming a thing? He's done really well in the last 2 weeks, and he did catch a touchdown last night. So I'm curious. I'm not convinced yet, but I'm curious. He's also not rostered anywhere, so he's free, which is great. So he could be one that you pick up in free agency after waivers have passed, but I'm curious. I want to see what he is able to do. They're going to have to, the Titans is who I mean, get creative when it comes to what they do without Derrick Henry. Now, I know they added Adrian Peterson. They also have Jeremy McNichols, and it was a very tough matchup last night against the Rams, although that didn't make it look like it was that tough. Thank you, Tennessee Titans defense. But this should be interesting. And Jeff Swaim is one of those weird names. At 1 through 7, he was completely irrelevant, but in the last 2 weeks, he scored double-digit fantasy points. So if you have the room, he might be someone that you want to pick up and stash for really good, juicy matchups. And it's weird. Jeff Swaim. Could it be? I don't know. Do I love it? No. Am I curious about it, as I mentioned many times already? Obviously. Moving on. The Browns. David Njoku. Got to do something now that Odell Beckham Jr. is gone on waivers maybe already. The Lions and the 49ers are not claiming Odell Beckham Jr., just so everybody knows. Who knows what's going to happen on Tuesday morning? This is Monday evening when I'm recording this. But David Njoku is 8% rostered. Now, he's not super duper explosive, but he can be productive. And they're going to need to fill the void of Odell Beckham Jr. now that he is gone. Now, that's probably going to be a lot of Jarvis Landry, could be Austin Hooper, but yeah, someone is going to have to step up here, and David Njoku might as well take a shot on him. If you're desperate at tight end or if you're streaming the position, he is one you can look at. Now, they do have a pretty bad matchup facing the Lions. I know it's surprising, but the Lions defense is actually pretty good against tight ends. And then they also play the Patriots in week 11, but after that, they face the Ravens in week 12, who are actually the worst against tight ends this season in 2021, which is pretty weird to think about the Baltimore Ravens defense allowing so many points to tight ends, but there you have it. And last but not least, my favorite tight end to pick up if you can, Tyler Conklin of the Minnesota Vikings. He is only 35% rostered, and his usage is going up. So I mentioned this phrase of trend versus fluke, and we're going away from fluky now and heading towards the trend for Tyler Conklin. And Kirk Cousins has been looking for him downfield. He had a pretty good game. He had a lot of targets, but he couldn't really haul in some of those targets, which were, I believe, uncatchable. But that it doesn't matter because Kirk Cousins is looking for them. Now, I do really like his schedule moving forward, even though on paper it may not be awesome. But they're facing Green Bay, San Francisco, and Detroit. So I like Green Bay because this is an interesting rivalry, if you will. So I want to see what happens with Tyler Conklin, but I really like his usage. As I mentioned many times, Kirk Cousins is looking for him, and he is only 35% rostered. And trust me, you could do a lot worse on the waiver wire than Tyler Conklin of the Minnesota Vikings. Now let's head into our streaming options for our quarterback and our defense special teams. First up, Carson Wentz. Can't believe it. Now, he may already be rostered in your leagues. He is 60% rostered, but there is a chance that he's available. And they're playing Jacksonville, who have allowed the 9th most points to quarterbacks so far this season. And Carson Wentz has scored 20 points or more in 4 out of his last 5 games. He's getting it done, even though it's not very pretty. Taysom Hill, like I mentioned, we're not really quite sure if the Saints are going to move forward with Trevor Siemian. Why they started with Trevor Siemian in the first place is beyond me, but hopefully they go back to Taysom Hill. He is 17% rostered. I have a feeling that change is going to happen sooner rather than later. The Saints are facing Tennessee, who are ranked 7th worst against quarterbacks. Finally, Matt Ryan, 55% rostered, so likely unavailable, but if he is, I do like him, especially this week playing Dallas, who are the 10th worst against quarterbacks. I will throw an honorable mention out here in Tua Tagovailoa if he is healthy. I also do like him this week as well. Now for our defenses. This is going to sound kind of weird, but Minnesota is 13% rostered, and they're facing the Chargers. Now, I know Justin Herbert can just tear defenses apart, but defenses can also tear him apart. So on paper, it's not great. And I don't necessarily know if I love it, but they are only 13% rostered. And if you need a defense or if you stream the position, I like what Minnesota has been able to bring to the table and put a lot of pressure on these quarterbacks. My other two are a little bit nicer looking when it comes to the matchup. The Raiders are 20% rostered. They're facing the Chiefs, who have allowed the 9th most points to opposing defenses. And Patrick Mahomes, I think he leads the league in interceptions and turnovers galore, and they just have not looked like themselves. So the Raiders and the Chiefs have a very interesting relationship, and they play each other very, very hard. So hopefully the Raiders, if you need to play them, can get you some points on defense and just kind of make Mahomes' life just a little bit harder than it likely is already. And lastly, mostly available are going to be the Eagles defense, who are facing the Houston Texans, who have allowed the 10th most points to opposing defenses. And that's all you have from me. Man, I struggled getting through that one, didn't I? I actually had to re-record this video already because my cat literally jumped on the desk and like ran around and almost broke everything. It was a hot mess. But hey, we have football tonight on Monday, so make sure you keep your eye on those wide receivers, those tight ends, those running backs, anyone that stands out that could be available on the waiver wire, in addition to all the great names that I gave you here. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like. I get it if you don't, because, kind of crazy. Mondays are always so weird. But make sure you've subscribed to our channel here on YouTube at Mayo Media Net. I am Lauren Carpenter. Make sure you follow us also at Mayo Media Net on social media. And you'll see me on Sunday. I'll be here bright and early here for you, 11:30 a.m., answering your start and sit questions as we head into week 10. And good luck.